bore da, croeso i sesiwn. Just i gyflwyno hynna'n Iwan dwi, a mae Katie hefyd ar y tîm yma. Hi Katie. A wedyn hefyd, da ni'n mynd i gweld gen Gwenny a Joe heddiw yma. Hi Gwenny. Hi Joe. Brilliant. Croeso i pawb arall i'r gofod hefyd. Mae'n gret gweld chi gyd. A wedyn, os gyda chi angen unrhyw beth heddiw yn ystod y sesiwn, just gadwch ni wybod. Gyrwch neges i Katie neu fi, neges personol, a nhw'n ni helpu lle ydych gallu. A wedyn, just bach o gefndir cyflym i chi. Da ni yma, rili, oherwydd y blwyddyn nôl. Nathon ni sesiwn ar-lein yn sôn am prosiect Dyffryn Dyfodol yn ei gyfanrwydd, a gyda ni yn holi be oedd bobl eisiau gwybod mwy am y prosiect, ac oedd gwerthuso a adlewyrchu'n un o hynny. So, dyna da ni'n mynd i wneud yma. Sôn am gwerthuso a adlewyrchu. Tir time ydy hwn di sesiwn ola ar-lein ni am y tro. Da ni'n gwneud 3 mis ar ôl ei gilydd. Wan, hwn di'r ola am y tro. Dwi eisiau fyddwn ni'n rhannu mwy yn y dyfodol, ond hwn di'r ola am y tro. A wedyn, yn ystod y sesiwn heddiw yma, da ni'n mynd i archwilio sut mae prosiect Dyffryn Dyfodol, prosiect ymchwil datblygu, wedi dogfennu, gwerthuso ac adlewyrchu, wrth i ni gydweithio efo bobol creadigol a chymunedau. So, hefyd, sut da ni wedi gwneud galwad agored i bobol creadigol gydweithio efo ni i adolygu'r gwaith da ni wedi bod yn gwneud. Ac hyn i gyd i digwydd, wrth i ni beidio cael llywio gan dargedau neu allbynnau penodol sydd wedi cael ei gosod ar ddechrau'r prosiect hefyd. So ar y agenda, fyddwn ni'n sôn am beth da ni'n gwneud. Fydd yna sesiwn rhyngweithiol bach, lle fydd yna stafelloedd breakout, a wedyn fydd ni'n cael cyfle am sgwrs bach ar ôl hynna hefyd. Ac bwriad ydy ni orffan am 1:00 yn brydlon. Os nad yn gynt, os di bobl ddim hefo dim byd maen nhw'n siarad am, rwy'n orffan yn gynt. So fel bonus bach i pawb. A wedyn, os da chi awydd, sy'n rhaid i chi wneud yn amlwg, ond os da chi eisiau cyflwyno'ch hun yn y chat, lle ydych chi, beth chi'n wneud, sa'n rili defnyddiol i pawb gael teimlad o pwy sydd yn y stafell. Sy'n amazing. Edrych ymlaen hefyd, achos be dwi'n ffeindio frustrating, dwi'n cael cyfle rili i weld pwy sy'n stafell wrth i fi siarad flat out efo chi. So dwi'n rili edrych ymlaen i edrych ar y chat wedyn, ydyn nhw hwnna, lyflu, dwi wedi cyfarfod nhw o blaen. So, please, rhannwch pwy ydych chi, lle ydych chi, beth ydych chi'n gwneud yn y chat. Cyflwynwch hynna, so hynna yn amazing os ydych chi'n meindio.
Iwan, just ga I deud rhywbeth?
Yeah.
I just want to just let the other people know who have just joined a little bit later. We do have simultaneous translation. So if you need translation from Welsh to English, please find the globe at the bottom of your screen and click on the English button.
Diolch, Katie. So, o'n i'n mynd i roi chdi bach o drosolwg o prosiect Dyffryn Dyfodol i'r hyn yn chi sydd ddim yn gwybod yn barod. So, mae'n prosiect ymchwil datblygu, dwi'n yn gwybod beth yw'r gair, datblygu, gafodd ei ariannu gen Cyngor Cymunedau Cymru drwy'r ffrwd cysylltu a ffynnu yn wreiddio'n 2 flynedd, gafodd ei stynu i 2 blynedd. Mae partneriaeth rhwng Cyfoeth Naturiol Cymru, Cartrefi Conwy a ni, Fiwsar. A wedyn, da ni wedi archwilio ffyrdd gwahanol gydweithio hefo'r partneriaid a hefyd hefo cymunedau a bobol creadigol yn ardal dalgylch catchment Afon Conwy. A wedyn, esiampla peth stwff da ni wedi gwneud, da ni wedi cynnal cinema, wedi cael ei byweru gan beics mewn 3 cymuned yn yr ardal. Nath ni gynnig 20 punt i bobl efo syniadau o stwff oedd nhw eisiau gwneud yn yr ardal, a mae hynny wedi arwain i clwb crefft a rheolaeth sy'n digwydd yn y llyfrgell yn Llanrwst wan, grwpiau trafod i rhieni a gofalwyr hefo bobl ifanc sydd ar y spectrwm, sy'n cefnogaeth. Hefyd, da ni wedi gwneud galwad i gydweithio bobl creadigol ar gymuned sydd wedi arwain at gwyl mawr nath ddigwydd yn Dolgarog flwyddyn dwytha sydd hefo bwriad am wneud eto eleni. Mae'n oriel gymunedol, mae'n lot o stwff a gormod i rannu, ond nhw'n i roi links i wefan a fideos ar ddiwedd y sesiwn mwyn eich cael mynd i chwilio chydig bach mwy o beth da ni wedi bod yn gwneud. Ac yn ystod y sesiwn, os gennych chi unrhyw gwestiynau, sylwadau, rhowch yn y chat, mi wnawn ni ddod nôl at nhw. Da ni wedi bod yn dogfennu y cwestiynau sydd wedi codi yn y sesiynau blaenorol. Da ni dal wrth i mynd drwyddyn nhw i greu ymatebion iddyn nhw. So mi fyddwn ni rhywbryd yn rhannu hyn efo chi ar-lein. So dyn nhw ddim yn mynd yn angof os da chi rhoi cwestiwn mewn a da ni heb gael amser i trafod nhw. Maen nhw yn cael eu cofnodi a da ni yn mynd i ymateb. So, oedden ni'n meddwl i ddechrau'r sesiwn, gan bod yna etholiad, bod ni'n gallu reidio, syrffio ar y teimlad etholiadol yma, a dechrau hefo rhyw fath o datganiadau agoriadol, rhyw fath o opening statements. Dwi'n meddwl sut mae hynny'n mynd i fynd, ond nhw'n i ddechrau efo hynna. Ac be ysbardyn yr her neu'r cwestiwn ydy, be ydy gwerthuso ac adlewyrchu i ni? So, mae'r pedwar o'r ni, mae Gwenny, Joe, Katie a fi yn mynd i geisio rhannu fersiwn ni o be di gwerthuso ac adlewyrchu i ddechrau fo, fel kick off y sesiwn, really. So, dwi'n mynd i wahodd ti, Gwenny, i ddechrau ateb y cwestiwn be di gwerthuso ac adlewyrchu. Ysgolch y dda.
Diolch, Iwan. So, mae gwerthuso a adlewyrchu i fi yn broses o considero lot o elfennau gwahanol sy'n mynd i fewn i rhywbeth. So, ella i fewn i prosiect, neu darn o waith celf, neu profiad. A considero'r elfennau o lot o safbwyntiau gwahanol. And I think that's because my perception of what might be important or interesting, or some people might say like of value, might be something I haven't even thought of yet or discovered. And every project or thing seems to have its own kind of set of values. Sometimes those values are set by outside forces, sometimes they're more fluid, sometimes they're really personal. There's not really a universal meaning of value to me, which makes evaluation this kind of wide-reaching process, I guess. And this often means needing to kind of reflect on something more than once. So it's like this ongoing process of looking at something lots of different times. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Wy, diolch. Opening statement da. Joe, ti isio neud i mewn?
Yeah, grand. I think it was always, right at the beginning, it was always what isn't working. That's what I wanted to know. I could see what is working quite clear. I wanted to know what wasn't working, which bits weren't reaching people, whatever. Now, in my dotage, I realised actually acknowledging what is working is also really important. People also really want to know that. We need to hear that. We need to hear those voices clear in our heads to keep us going as much as anything else. But also because that's, funders and future people you're working with might need to hear a bit of how you affect, how you reach with your work. But it's also, like problem solving, research, when you're really trying to grasp a thing. And fundamentally, I guess it all comes down to why, Pam, why are you doing the work? You've got to be really clear on that so you know how do you know if it's worked if you don't know why you're doing it. And it sounds really, really obvious, the amount of projects I've been involved with where really that's not clear. Really, truthfully clear. And to hear people's voices as well, because it's sometimes right at the very end, I get a little voice through from somebody who hasn't spoken or hasn't read it, and I get this little, because I do my evaluation in like all kinds of forms, video, written, whatever, and I get a little voice through, a little message that I hadn't heard, that I hadn't realised how significant it was, that I hadn't clocked something in somebody's experience. And obviously, hearing the voices is going to be what we're about as well. Yeah.
So dwi'n dod o cefndir scientific, actually. I come from a scientific background. So traditionally, my idea of what an evaluation is very much like you're assessing something, you're analysing data, you're deciding whether it's kind of worth whatever it is, or if it's successful, or if it's effectiveness, etc. And then, the process being you're then kind of collating that data and then analysing it for, for kind of information to make your conclusions, and then you write a report. And so that's the kind of traditional format that I've been accustomed to, but having worked in the creative sector for many years now, it's sort of very refreshing to now kind of look at things in a slightly different way and thinking about creative reflection and using some of those tools to have some little bit of kind of questioning in a more of a structured format or kind of a data thing to a degree, but also to be very, you know, to allow freedom for being descriptive and to be analytical at the same time, and to be kind of creative with it. And that was how I reflect on this kind of journey that we've been on with Dyffryn Dyfodol. And it's sort of certainly about not doing formal evaluation, but also thinking about who are we trying to do what for? What are we trying to, you know, who is it that we're trying to, who are our stakeholders? And I hate using that word. I'm stuck with it. I've used it again. But who are the people that we want to share stuff with? And obviously the funders are really important, but so are all the people that we've worked with, and that you know, from the people that have been employed through the project and the people in the communities who we've worked with. So it's been a really different way of doing things. I'm going to throw it to you, Iwan, now, because you will have a bit to say too.
Yeah, wel dwi wedi bod yn, dros y 3 mlynedd dwytha, wedi bod yn really cwestiynu be ydi gwerthuso, really, a be ydi gwerthuso ella, ac wedyn wedi bod yn tyllu mewn i lle mae'r gair yna'n dod o'n Gymraeg, gwerthuso, yn Saesneg evaluation, a i fi mae'r gwerth na, y value na, just ti'n mynd gallu data do o'r syniad o werthuso, really. Ac mae o, am ni yn rhywbeth i fi am beth sy'n bwysig, am ni, beth ydy'r pethau pwysig na. Achos dyna ydy gwerth, ynde? So mae seicolegwyr yn dweud bod gwerthoedd yn ddylanwad mawr ar ymddygiad ac agweddau bobol. So ella bod o'n debyg i brosiectau hefyd. Ac yn amlwg i fi, mae gen pawb, mae'n rhywbeth personol hefyd, fi'n meddwl. So i fi mae bod yn garedig, yn agored, yn chwilfrydedd, isio dysgu yn bwysig i fi fel fy ngwerthoedd i. Ac wedyn o'n i'n meddwl, o ie, be nath ni ddeud ar ddechrau'r prosiect? So wrth i'r 3 partner ddatblygu ffyrddau weithio, nath ni wneud nodyn o 10 o werthoedd. Felly bod ni ddim i gyd yn cael ei, sa chi'n disgrifio nhw fel gwerthoedd, ond dwi wedi bigo chydig o'n nhw fama, wedi gwneud nodyn. So cymryd risgiau a bod yn ddewr oedd un, ailfframio methiant oedd un arall, rhannu grym, bod yn agored ag ymddiried, a wedyn canlyniadau sydd ddim wedi gyfyngu gan dargedau. So, o'n i'n dechrau yma wedyn, ydy fy ngwerthoedd i yn rhan o personoliaeth fi. So wedyn ydy gwerthoedd Dyffryn Dyfodol yn creu personoliaeth, prosiect, ella? Dwi'n gwybod os yna wir, ond o'n i'n dechrau meddwl am pethau yma. A wedyn sut mae'r gwerthoedd yna'n dylanwadu ar sut mae Dyffryn Dyfodol yn gweithredu, really. Ond ie, felly ydy gwerthuso yn rhyw fath o ffordd o checio nôl at addewidion mae rhywun wedi wneud fel rhan o brosiect neu'n personol, dysgu beth digwydd o hynna, neu checio mewn efo sut nath ni ymddwyn. Nath ni ymddwyn mewn ffordd oedd yn cyd-fynd ar gwerthoedd na da ni wedi datgan neu wedi meddwl am ar y dechrau, really. So ie, mae'n really difyr faint o syniadau gwahanol sy'n yna am gwerthuso, yn dydi? Chos un o pethau ni'n mynd i wneud fel rhan o hwn ar y dechrau oedd rhannu chydig bach o quotes gen bobol, ond actually mae'n teimlo mor bersonol. So dwi'n gwybod, Katie, os na rhywbeth arall, Joe, Gwenny, os na rhywbeth i ychwanegu at hynna, kind of, be da ni eisiau gwneud? Nawn ni agor y drafodaeth nes ymlaen. So ni ddim agor i pawb wan, achos dwi'n mynd i sôn chydig bach mwy am y broses nath ni'n mynd drwy fy prosiect. Cyn gael clywed gen Gwenny a Joe am be nath nhw'n wneud hefo ni. So Katie a Joe, mae Gwenny di diflannu, yndi? Katie a Joe, sgynnych chi rhywbeth i ychwanegu?
I guess it's all about definition, and definition means different things to different people, and so it's for me just having the opportunity to really think about what it is that we want to evaluate and how we do that has been really really interesting kind of mentally to think it through and hold those kind of conversations, those internal discussions. Sorry, there's some background noise. So yeah, it's the kind of it's having an opportunity to kind of carry on with the process, and when you evaluate something, it doesn't just finish there, I think, for me, and that's what's quite important. There's always things, just because a report is completed doesn't mean that it's not more reflecting and analysing that can be done. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing that I find that is left off a lot of projects that I wish they wouldn't is the debrief. The really serious debrief, which is kind of almost before the evaluation, is part of the evaluation, that you're coming out of your session and you really need to seriously chat on it. You really need to seriously think about it before you even start writing things down and finding ways. Yeah. Every time I find that missed off, I find that we're missing a huge trick. And then we come to evaluation, or we haven't put that grounding place in first, where it helps out with our memories, obviously, but it also really helps us problem solve any of the problems that there might be, and also the ongoing evaluation that I like to do. So with whatever group I'm working with, it's a lot about decision making, a lot about collective decision making. So I need to know how people are and how people are feeling. We need to do that in a very instant way. For me, that's visual, because I'm dyslexic. So I'm needing to know, right, is everyone digging this? Does everyone want to do this? We need to do something really quick, and that's ongoing. And finding those ongoing ways that work with different groups is like, when I'm working with a new group, once I find that way that they can and like to evaluate, boom, I found that, right, okay, we can really go somewhere now.
Brilliant. Grêt, diolch am y kind of opening statements na, i gael ni ddechrau cael ni yn y mood i feddwl am sut da ni'n gwerthuso ac yn adlewyrchu. So be na i wan, jyst rhaid bach mwy gefndir i chi am lle da ni wedi cyrraedd efo Dyffryn Dyfodol cyn i fynd yn ôl at Jo a Gwenny, a gobeithio bod Gwenny'n gallu ail ymuno efo ni. Kate, ti'n meindio gyda'r neges i checio mewn efo Gwenny, tra bod fi yn cyflwyno, so hynna'n amazing, neu siw bod i'n nôl. A wedyn ar ôl hynna, nhw'n ni fynd i breakout rooms a trafod mwy wedyn. So, yr her cyntaf gen ni oedd, am bod ni wedi penderfynu yn eitha cynnar i symud canlyniadau ac allbynnau un ochr, fel bod nhw'n gallu codi fel rhan o'r gwaith da ni'n neud. Oedd ddim rili'n bosib i ni ddefnyddio dulliau mwy traddodiadol werthuso, sef creu fframwaith, efo dargedau, sut ydyn ni'n gasglu'r data a be di'r tystiolaeth, a rhoi hwnna i gyd at ei gilydd. Dwi wedi gweithio o blaen efo tabla really diflas ydy'r gair, caredig ella, sydd ddim yn gwneud rhywun exeitio am gwblhau y tabl, really. So, oedden ni ddigon lwcus bod ni'n gallu peidio gwneud hynna, achos oedden ni'n gallu, achos y targedau ddim wedi cael ei gosod gan ni. Ond jyst i wneud o'n glir hefyd, fel rhan o cais ni gan y cyflydau, mi oedd na dargedau, mi oedd y niferoedd yn wedi roed i mewn. So, ffordd ni o weithiau oedd i warchod y gweithgaredd ac y bobol creadigol rhag poeni am heini, bod nhw'n gorfod cyrraedd heini, achos oedden ni'n gwybod, so gen ni ffydd, bod y prosiect mynd i gyrraedd heini yn hawdd am yn wedi. So, oedden ni'n gorfod bod yn eitha dewr ar y dechrau i beidio gweithredu yn y ffordd arferol o cadw'r targedau neu fynd, a bod ni'n rhoi heini ar bobol creadigol. Achos, ie, dwi'n meddwl, mae'n rhywbeth cefndirol i fi pryd mae'n darged penodol i gyrraedd hyn a hyn o bobl, neu wneud o mewn ffordd penodol. Mae o just rhyw lais bach yna cefndir yn cwyno arno fi i wneud pethau mewn ffordd penodol mewn cyrraedd hynny. A mae o'n teimlo weithio bod o'n distractio o'r actual gwaith sydd angen i wneud, really. So, oedden ni'n lwcus bod ni'n gallu gwneud rhywbeth am hynna, really. A wedyn, oedden ni yn benodol eisiau gweithio mewn ffordd gwahanol, ac un o pethau oedden ni eisiau wneud eisiau archwilio oedd yn y dechrau gweld sy'n ni'n gallu cael rhywun i ddod ar y daith hefo ni oedd o gefndir celfyddydol sy'n dall y prosiect. Hefo ni am 2 flynedd fel oedd y fod yn y dechrau, di troi allan i fod yn 2 blynedd. Ond un o'r heriau hefo hynna oedd am bod ni'n gwybod be oedd y gweithgaredd yn mynd i wneud, neu sut yn mynd i wneud o, neu lle yn mynd i wneud o, na hefo pwy, sut mae gosod brief i rywun heb wybod y pethau yna, mae'n rili llithrig yn dyri, rili. So nath ni gael sgwrs hefo Gwenny, actually, ar y dechrau. Na'n ffodus Gwenny ddim yn gael anyway, so oedden ni'n gorfod sgwennu brief really slippery anyway, so oedd yn safio bach o her i ni, rili. So dwi'n gwybod sut ni'n gwneud o. Beth bynnag. So be nath ni ar ôl hynna oedd really just casglu pob peth ar bob cam ar hyd y ffordd. Mae'n rhaid bocsys a bocsys o stwff da ni wedi sgriblo, wedi sgwennu ar yn ystod sesiynau hefo partneriaid ni am 7 mis. Mae gen i audio recordings o bob un cyfarfod. Wel, bob un cyfarfod da ni ddim wedi anghofio push o record, neu mae batteries yn rhedeg allan ar. Y reality ydy, da ni'n fallible. Da ni'n ddynol, da ni ddim yn gallu gwneud o'n berffaith, di hynna ddim yn bosib. Ond mae gen i llwyth a llwyth o stwff, mae llwyth o luniau, mae llwyth o fideos, mae gen i ddyddiau o audio a fideo i fynd drwyddo fo. A wedyn, mae hynna'n ffain, mae hynna'n hawdd, actually. Mae pwsio'r record na a tynnu'r lluniau yna'n really hawdd, a mae cofnodi stwff ar y flip charts, ar papur, ar gweithgaredd da ni wedi gwneud, yn really hawdd, actually. Yr her wedyn ydy sut da ni'n rhannu hynna, a troi'r data yna, os liciwch chi, i mewn i wybodaeth defnyddiol i bobl. A da ni wedi bod yn trafod ac yn dal i trafod am sut i wneud hynna. A da ni dal ddim yn gwybod beth yw'r ateb. Am hynna yn OK, achos dos da ddim un ateb cywir neu anghywir, really. Da ni dal yn archwilio hynna. So mae sesiynau yma i ni yn rhan o'r rhan yna. Maen nhw'n lot o fi yn siarad lot, ella. Ac yn recordio nhw, sy'n golygu bod nhw ar gael i bobl eraill hefyd sydd ddim yn gallu mynychu sesiynau. Ond hefyd, da ni wedi bod yn arbrofi hefo defnyddio AI, lle maen nhw wedi transcribio recordiadau o cyfarfodydd ni, a da ni'n gofyn i'r AI wedyn gwneud summaries ar cyfarfodydd. Mae dwi'n arbrawf rili difyr. So mae yna 31 alla o gyfarfodydd partneriaid ni wedi cael dros 3 blynedd. Ond am reid wedi anghofio pwysio record ar. Ac mae wedi crynhoi bob un cyfarfod sydd allan 2-4 awr i mewn i 100 gair. Ac wrth edrych dros hynna i gyd, mae'n rhoi trosolwg really lush. Sa'n ni'n gallu cael wneud yr crynodau yna o'r cyfarfodydd, really. Mae'n ddim ond super defnyddiol, a dwi wrthi wan arbrofi yn gofyn cwestiynau eraill i AI i ddadansoddi beth sydd yna fo ynglyn â be oedden ni'n anghytuno am, be oedden ni'n anghytuno am, a be oedd y sticky points y balli. A mae'n rili difyr. Gofyn y cwestiwn mewn ffyrdd gwahanol yn golygu bod ni'n cael atebion gwahanol gyda fo. So eto, os na ddim un ateb cywir i ni cael gyn AI i rannu, ond mae'r broses yna'n eitha difyr i wneud. Ac rili, os gennych chi prosiectach, mae gennych chi lot o fideos mae'n ffordd rili hawdd i gael ydi transcribio. Ond diolch yn licio transcribio Cymraeg. Dyna'r unig her. So mae eisiau newid technoleg. A dwi'n siŵr bod Prifysgol Bangor wrthi yn galad yn gweithio hynna, ond dwi'n rili edrych ymlaen fel pryd mae AI yn gallu sgwennu audio o'r Gymraeg. So, peth arall nath ni'n wneud, ar ôl yr holl recordio yna a trio rhannu yma, a da ni newydd rili dechrau Instagram Dyffryn Dyfodol. Mae'n rili hwyr yn dechrau, ond da ni rili falch o yn ara 10 drip fideo, chdi bach o bodaeth am beth da ni wedi wneud. Mi fydd na wefan Dyffryn Dyfodol yn cael ei lansio yn y misoedd nesaf yma. Mae gen i loads o stwff i rannu, ac un o'r pethau mae gen i ddordeb yn ydy sut da ni'n gallu rhoi blas o beth da ni wedi wneud, ond hefyd bod yna gyfle i bobl os dyn nhw isio dyrchu'n ddifn i mewn i beth da ni'n wneud a cael y manylion yna a gweld y stwff bler i gyd. Ac dyna un o'r pethau oedden ni eisiau arbrofi hefo y syniad yma o adolygu'r prosiect. So, yn hytrach na dod â rhywun i werthuso prosiect, achos mae'r person gwerthuso'n gorfod bod yn berffaith yn dydi. Mae yna gymaint o bobl sy'n gwerthuso, heb gymaint o gefndiroedd gwahanol. Sut mae ffeindio ein wrth fynd allan i dyndr neu gwahodd bobl i wneud, a dwi dal ddim yn gwybod pa ffordd gorau i matcho y prosiect efo'r gwerthuswr gorau. Dwi'n meddwl bod yna ffordd pendant o wneud hynna. So, oedden ni eisiau arbrofi yn ffordd gwahanol beth bynnag. So, nathon ni gydweithio efo Esyll Lewis i arbrofi bod hi'n cael mynediad at holl stwff ni. So, da ni'n cadw rhan fwy o stwff ni ar Google Drive. mae yna drives ar-lein eraill, so dwi'n mynd hysbysebu bod chi'n defnyddio nhw. Ond gath i fynediad at popeth gennym ni, a mynd i mewn, a beth ni'n gofyn iddi wneud oedd dwi fath o adolygiad onest hefo ni. Ac oedd hynna yn rili difyr, nath i fwynhau'r broses, nath i helpu ni llywio wedyn galwad, nath i fynd allan at grŵp mwy o bobl oedd yn eisiau gwahodd i ddod i adolygu hefo ni. Ac y bwriad oedd bod ni'n ffeindio 4 person creadigol arall i wneud be nath esyllt hefyd, ond yn diwedd ar ôl i ni fod mewn cyswllt efo lot o bobl, nath ni fynd efo 9 o bobl. 6 ohonyn nhw'n gwneud adolygiad ar prosiect yn ei gyfanrwydd a 3 yn edrych ar strand penodol o'r prosiect. So hynna yn super lush, ni'n really balch o gallu gwneud rhywbeth mewn ffordd gwahanol a ddim ffiniau ar be oedd yn dod nôl at ni. Oedden ni'n cael sawl sgwrs efo lot o bobl yna, so be ydych chi isio? Be ydych chi isio actually? A da ni yn dweud, na fynd i chi. Gawch chi mynd i weld. So dwi'n mynd i basio ymlaen yma at Joe a Gwenny sy'n mynd i rannu hefo ni fel adolygwyr prosiect. Be nath nhw'n wneud, sydd y prosiect. A wedyn ni, gawch chi fwy o flas o sut oedd y broses yna iddyn nhw. So, Joe, os allai basio at y tŷ gynta, dwi'n mynd i ddechrau'r lluniau i fynd hefo beth ti'n mynd i rannu. So, dros at y tŷ, Joe.
Helo, dwi'n Joe. Dwi'n Pepeddraig. Chwedleraig, animaidderaig, ceflynydd. So I've got a few strings to my bow. But really, whatever the creative thing I might be doing, what I really see myself as is a tour guide to collective creative exploration. And I've been doing that for a few years now. Roedd yn ffodus iawn yn weithio gyda bobol bendigedig. 25 years ago, I trained with Tony G and trained and worked. And, you know, we don't have enough of these positions anymore. And I really think we need to think about that. But I trained and worked with Tony G and the Movable Feast. So this was a man who was writing PhDs and books about what is workshop. And the Movable Feast was a company really pushing the bounds of what is workshop 25 years ago. Nessa? So yeah, in all of that, in all of my training, it was the planning. The planning was considered that, you know, this is where it's at, which didn't mean it wasn't. It was the prep, the constant reflection, the debriefing, like I was saying, and the evaluation. It's all kind of like one thing that is very hard to separate out, because basically it's all about the fundamental why. Like I was saying, the PAM, what are you doing it for? Yeah, no, I was just going to say next. So you were still ahead. Yeah, so I'm dyslexic. So I really like my information to come in visually. Dwi'n angen llaw a pattern. But also, yeah, because I'm very good at patterns and all of this, I'm very good at numbers. And actually, I do want to get that qualitative data, but I find it easier to do it artistically. I can see it immediately. When I look at this, I know exactly what it's saying. But I won't go into it yet. And when I get to the qualitative, when I want to get to the conversation, I'm already one step ahead. You give people Muppet-style puppets, you know, flip-top head Muppet-style talking puppets. They will tell you things they didn't even know themselves. So, yeah. Agnes. So what attracted me to the Dyffryn Dyfodol was the openness of the, you know, have a look at our archive. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. Do you know, as I say, I got loads of strings to my bow. darllenais a gwyllio a darganfod archaifiau. And it just came very naturally that I got my scissors out. And because there was phrases that I really wanted to capture. And I've done this a lot, you know. The other thing was a creative response I'd done to an archaeological dig. And I use collage a lot. I find it's really, really, you know, especially if you've got a little amount of time, it's a really quick and easy way for people to cut up and add. I just think it's a really good good tool. Yeah, and doing defnyddio in for gwaith loads. Felly i'r season ar ôl chydig gallech weld a pattern. It became quite easy to me to notice where the words start to jump out and what I'm paying attention to. And in all my investigation, Nessa, I found that, unsurprisingly, knowing a bit about Dyffryn Dyfodol, knowing the quality of the creatives involved, that there was a whole bundle of amazing activities. The thing, there was a whole bundle of them. But I found myself looking right back at the beginning pages that were sent out, which were basically the statements of intent, the core principles. And I do think we don't pay enough attention to these. We hear a lot of them, and a lot of them are glib and not thought through. But what struck me here is that wasn't the case, and because that wasn't the case, I really wanted to look into it. I find as a dyslexic reader, people who skim right, I can't read, but people who have paid the attention to the words, that's where I can actually get involved with the words. So here I am. So I've made this Constantina book, and basically I'm looking at those core principles. I'm breaking the words up, you know, working bilingually. You know, it's really good because it forces me to get down into those words and what do they really mean in either language, and really like kind of break it all down and break down the concepts that were coming up with, the multiple meanings that were unfolding. That's why the unfolding, I wanted it to unfold top and bottom as well. That was me getting a bit carried away, because that's the way it felt like. You have core principles, and unfolding from there came the actions. But I think that's quite clear. People can see that. I mind darganfod ystyr. You know, I looking down at these at what the core principles are, and I guess I wanted it to be celebratory, as in, I think this is really important to acknowledge this kind of thing, or maybe paying witness to these moments, like in where people have really concentrated. I find they're often not acknowledged. It's often the end result that everyone's looking at. And it's like these bits is what led to the end result being able to be. And other groups, companies, whatever, not concentrating on this beginning bit is why they're not getting the same results. Personally talking. But I didn't want it to be self-congratulatory. Okay, yeah, I didn't want it to be self-congratulatory because there's a lot of that, a lot of didn't we do well in evaluation in our creative worlds. Yeah, skip. So these are just my reflections on what I found. The reflections I put, my own reflections I put on the tissue paper, overriding all these other words. And A dwi'n meddwl mae'r hyn sy'n gwneud y prosiect mor ddiddorol, mor pwysig, o ei bod yn wedi treulio amser, egni a calon i wneud syniadau grief. You know, I really do think this is really important for all of us to look at, because we all need to be putting that kind of energy and that kind of time into our basic core values for everything that we're doing, because then that sets us up with a foundation that if we want to evaluate, we know exactly what we're evaluating because we know exactly what we're wanting to do. Boom.
Diolch Jo, a dwi ddigon lwcus i gael y llyfr, mae'n bleser cael o yn fy nwylo, a mae di'r lluniau ddim yn gwneud cyfiawnder ar gwaith sydd yn gwneud Jo, actually. Mae'n lyflu cael o yn fy llaw ac yn archwilio beth sydd wedi gymryd, mae'n really lush. So diolch ti am rannu, mae'n amazing. Nawr ni symud ymlaen at Gwenny wan, so dyna i ail rannu llunio. Anna bach ymlaen ti, Gwenny.
Diolch Iwan. Sori, o'n i'n cael internet really drwg cyn, so dwi wedi gorau symud stafell, a fingers crossed, dwi ddim yn dropio off na cael yn stuck yn y ether eto. So, helo pawb, Gwenny dwi'n artist, dwi'n dysgu a rhedeg workshops, a dwi'n gwneud ambell i job gwahanol. Weithiau dwi'n gweithio fel rhan o prosiectau Gwerthuso efo rhywun ar enw Rwyth. Dwi o Dyffryn yn wreiddiol yn Gogledd Cymru, ond dwi'n byw yn Dydd ar hyn o bryd. A o'n i'n digon lwcus i fod yn un o'r prosiect reviewers i Dyffryn Dyfodol. So mae'n gwaith cael fi. So in my art practice, I usually work a lot with video, experimental film, installation, I do a lot of drawing, a fel Jo, dwi'n ffindio collage i bod yn rhywbeth really kind of fundamental and kind of processes o feddwl fi. A just cyn i fi ddechrau mynd ymlaen i siarad am y gwaith nes i greu yn y prosiect, dwi eisiau ni wylio clip byr o'r gwaith nes i greu fel rhan o'r adolygiad. Bydd yna cyfle i chi weld fersiwn llawn o'r gwaith yma ar ôl y sgwrs heddi yma. Mae o ar gael ar wefan Fusar, ond ie, nawn ni rhannu link i hwnna nes ymlaen. Ond ie, dwi wedi paratoi excerpt, 1 minute excerpt bach i ni gyd wylio cyn i fi fynd ymlaen i siarad. So Katie has kindly put a link in the chat to the excerpt of the video. So if we can all spend a minute to experience that, I'll go on then. I guess, Iwan and Katie, I might just time a minute on my phone. Just to make sure, yeah, I don't give people too much time or too little time. So, yeah, I have some time to do that now. Okay, so hopefully you were all able to at least get a little bit of a flavour of the creative response I made as a result of reviewing the Dyffryn Dyfodol project. So yeah, ges I lot o hwyl yn adolygu'r prosiect. Oedd y holl broses o cael deep dive drwy'r drive, y Google Drive, a'r prosiect yn really liberating, egniol a inspiring really. Oedd yn ffordd hollol unigryw a newydd I fi o weithio ar prosiect Gwerthuso. Dwi wedi gweithio ar sawl prosiect Gwerthuso efo rwth ganol yn y gorffennol, a mae rheini wedi bod yn kind of projects fwy ffurfiol, so fel oedd Katie'n sôn yn y cychwyn, syniad kind of fwy scientific ma o casglu data a wedyn dadansoddi'r data. So oedd yn really ffantastig gallu cyfuno sgiliau creadigol efo kind of, syniad o Gwerthuso ma. And Iwan and Katie really set up an open and trusting and caring environment right from the very beginning. With an emphasis on that they didn't know what the outcomes could or should be, which made it really kind of liberating and safe for me to kind of run with ideas that came up while reviewing information. It didn't feel like there was pressure to make anything specific. Or to even know what we were doing. So I would say the most challenging and enjoyable thing about being part of the project was the not knowing what I was doing. And that it was fine to not know what I was doing. And I think, we're so often pressured and weighed down by kind of targets and outcomes and expectations that can really dampen a momentum or an energy. So having that freedom to really actively reflect through making something experimental in this context was really, really great. The title of my creative response is Meddwl efo Afon, Thinking with a River, which is probably kind of the best place to start while talking about that work. I was really interested in how water shaped almost all of the Dyffryn Dyfodol project. So from the geographic spread of the project to some of the activities, some of the socially engaged artists who were working as part of the project were also using water as kind of inspiration. So kind of thinking about Llyn Conwy as that water source shaping the valley. And the video work I made was it was kind of a compilation of clips from the River Taff, which is in Cardiff. And I would spend a few hours on the computer kind of reading about Dyffryn Dyfodol's activity and then reflect on what I had discovered while walking along the Taff. And I found that idea of thinking with a river to be really powerful and relevant to the project. So thinking about water as being this really fluid thing, and that the word Dyffryn, even comes from the idea of a ffordd y dŵr, the way of the water almost, or the road of the water. And I was thinking a lot about the murkiness that Dyffryn Dyfodol allowed as well. It was like, things don't have to be clear. Things don't have, that idea of opacity, the not knowing, the figuring out as you go. And the murky waters of the Taff that accompanied these walks really spoke to that for me. Things don't need to be crystal clear. You don't need to have all the answers for things to be effective or to make a difference. Although, the waters of the Taff are very different to the waters in Dyffryn Conwy, which are nice and crystal clear. And while reflecting on the project as well, I'd often kind of jot down some of the words or ideas that really resonated from the project documents or recordings, and I wanted to kind of weave them together into the piece. So, again, using collage like Joe was doing, making them a part of my response with my own writing and other quotes from other sources. And there was also something about this idea of reflection. I think that there's a quote from someone from NRW talking about Dyffryn Dyfodol as this mirror reflecting in on itself, not in a bad way, in a good way, like this idea of kind of making like limitless space. And someone else was talking about this idea of rippling, you know, the ripples of Dyffryn Dyfodol are what's really important. And I really wanted to capture that as part of the work. I wanted the visuals to be like a little bit real and a little bit imagined, which also kind of connected to some of the stuff Dyffryn Dyfodol was doing, like I guess some of the more like kind of outlandish and experimental stuff, like you know, using that cycling cinema as a catalyst to really bring people together and have conversations. It's like, you know, that seed thing, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, and the sound I used as part of the work was also something important to me. I was trying to kind of set the headspace I was in while reflecting on all this stuff. So hopefully when you get a chance to listen and watch the full video, experience the full video, you can do so with headphones, so that yeah, maybe you can get into this contemplative headspace as well. So yeah, mae'r darn llawn yn para tua 5 munud, dwi'n meddwl. A oedd yr overall profiad o gweithio ar y prosiect yn un really positive. A oedd bod yn rhan o'r criw adolygu yn gret hefyd. It was amazing to see, you know, the scope of the different creative responses. Yeah, if you get a chance, definitely check them all out on the Fusar website. I'm like an advert now. But yeah, but that's me. Diolch am wrando. Yeah, nôl I chi, Kate, Iwan.
Wel, swn i'n licio dweud diolch yn fawr Gwenny a Joe. Rwan, da ni'n mynd I trafod mwy. So swn i'n dechrau efo'r just a kind of brawddeg I dweud, oes na ddim ateb cywir neu anghywir o gwbl. So, da ni wedi trafod beth ydy gwersylla oh no! And reflections I ni i'ch trwch chi rwan. So, da ni'n mynd mewn ystafell breakout rooms, and I would like to invite you to make some notes individually, because afterwards we'll have a chance to have the opportunity to share your thoughts through the chat. So the question is, what is evaluation and reflection for you? And what are their purposes? And also, what could it be? So I'll just repeat that. So what is evaluation and reflection for you? What are their purposes? And what could it be? And we will go into breakout rooms. And as I said before, just, you know, it's an opportunity to just like have a chat, and there's no right or wrong with it. So, Anne, are you able to do the breakout rooms, please?
Sorry, Shari, just do well, nes ti ddweud, yeah?
Na I rannu link I chdi.
Brilliant,
Croeso nôl pawb, welcome back everybody. Usually the breakout rooms aren't quite long enough, but it's a little tease. So we're now actually the way we've done it before, which we'd like to do again, which is to just give you all a couple of minutes to write down your individual sort of reflections if you want to share them. And as I said before, there's no right or wrong. And then all at the same time, we'll put our ideas in the chat feature. This is a way of meaning that everyone who wants to contribute in one go, and you're not influenced by other people's voices. And of course, yes, we can do that and then have a conversation. And after which, yeah, be time for some questions and answers too. So I'm just going to be silent again for another few minutes, just so you can put your individual thoughts down should you wish. And as I said, nothing, no right or wrong. It could be a half a thought. That's fine. So I'm just going to do another timer. Looks like people are still writing, so I'm just, if you've finished, maybe just give me the thumbs up and I'll just see. I'm gonna give a few more, I'll give a little bit of time to people to just reflect, and then we'll all put our thoughts down at the same time in the chat. Oh, it's all right, Rhian, dim ots. Okay, so I'm going to, people have already started putting their ideas in. So if you are ready and you've been holding back, if you'd just like to put it all in, all at the same time, then they all come in one cascade, and then we'll look through them. I hope you had enough time to just write down a few ideas. And if you didn't, that's also fine. So now's the chance to just have a little read about what other people have thought. I'll just read a couple out because we know that there's going to be people watching this on record, so they won't be able to see the chat. So I will just read out some of the chat features, see how far we get in the time. And then we'll start a conversation and some more questions and answers if you'd like. So something useful for the future, way of learning, maybe a way to show how it may impact people and show change. Using the 3 H's as a structure: heart, head, and hand. Heart being personal and non-measurable. Head, the cold, hard facts, data. And hand, what actions come next. Okay, move from Inspired to try and build more dynamic ideas through evaluation and reflection when bid writing and engaging with funding bodies. This is someone who's quite new in the fundraising world. For me, it's about reporting the real experiences and value that people get from a project in a more creative way, rather than usual dry report writing. Evaluations is a living process that winds its way through the project as it progresses, rather than an afterthought or something brought together at the very end, leaving space for the evaluation to be open, to be interpreted by the viewer, leaving space for curiosity and challenge without an answer. Rhannu, share. Within our participating communities and our creative communities, workshop practice is an art form, and so it's to be reviewed in the same way as any other art form is. Really good idea to share evaluation in whatever form with the community. When Gwerthuso is effective, it not only collates views from different media, but those views and questions from the starting point for a real discussion, i.e. with a lot of members of the community we worked with, and that discussion creates more questions and thoughts that someone wouldn't be able to think of if they were on their own. Writing a lengthy report, sharing within and also sharing outwards can inspire and become a stepping stone for the next creation. Big thing. Feel like I'd like to read them all. Is that okay? How do you feel, Ian? Is that all right? I mean, R&D gives opportunities for targets to change, which is great. Also to identify new targets and opportunity that we might not have known otherwise. We also discussed the methodology of the head, heart and hand to share information and how to reach others, a mix of personal stories with facts and what next approach. Okay. Camau o newyddiadau, to be grounded, dysgu, addasu, datblygu. Grounded, learn, adapt and develop. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing those and allowing me to also read them out. That helps me to process them too. I just wonder if I can open the floor. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to share verbally, or also you can ask in the chat feature as well? Any questions? Of course, croeso I gofyn cwestiwn yn Gymraeg.
O'n i jyst eisiau adlewyrchu ar, gan Mae Gwerthuso adlewyrchu, ydyn ni, ond adlewyrchu ar y gwahaniaeth, faint o kind of ffyrdd gwahanol sy'n na feddwl am Gwerthuso. Really, mae just y rhannu ydych chi newydd wneud, really, just dangos yr amrywiaeth yna sy'n na. So dwi'n gwybod bod fi'n euog yn bersonol, ond meddwl am Gwerthuso mewn fel rhywbeth pendant yn y gorffennol, rhywbeth sydd hefo ffiniau, sydd wedi ddiffinio'n dda, a bod yna llai hyblygrwydd, ond actually just efo'r sylwadau ydych chi wedi rannu, really, mae'n dangos yn glir faint mor agored ydy syniad yma Gwerthuso, a dwi'n meddwl dyna pam weithiau mae'n gallu bod yn codi ofn rhywfaint ar bobl o ran, a dwi yn hyn di profi hyn, lle dwi'n teimlo fel be ydy Gwerthuso? Dwi'n mynd yn ôl dros blynyddoedd yn pethau, so be ydy Gwerthuso eto? So wedi fod i wneud o? Oherwydd o mor gymleth, a mor agored i fod yn gymaint o bethau gwahanol, really. So diolch chi am rannu eich syniad a'ch meddyliau efo ni.
Anyone else? Unrhyw arall yn eisiau deud rhywbeth?
Gair enw. Go for it. Go, Sima.
Diolch. Yeah, no, I just thought it was really nice. I mean, having this kind of visual way of reporting, because coming from a more, the usual way in which you kind of report things from projects, it's quite nice to see different methods and ways in which you can show something that's so emotive and so creative in such a meaningful way. So I think it's lovely to show the analogies and how that can be like a living product that you can show other people, and they can really get meaning from that. So yeah, thank you very much for kind of sharing that. It's really interesting, and I think I'll definitely be using that in the future for my own kind of report writing. So thank you.
Diolch for sharing, Sima. I was going to share rhywbeth bach cyflym. So rhywbeth o'n i ddim yn gwybod ar y dechrau'r prosiect, a nes i ddarganfod yn y flwyddyn dwytha yma, ydy grounded theory, os yna rhywun yn gwybod am hynna? So grounded theory ydy lle os na ddim hypothesis ar y dechrau unrhyw waith mae rhywun yn wneud, ond drwy gwneud y gwaith a gweld beth sy'n codi, ti wedyn yn gallu dod i gasgliadau. Ac o'n i'n meddwl bod hynna'n lush ac yn rhyw fath o, dwi'n gwybod, yn validatio i ryw raddau a ffordd ni o weithio mewn ffordd bod yna ffordd academaidd o wneud gwaith ymchwil a darganfod stwff sydd actually'n eitha tebyg i ffordd ni, bod ni heb di dylunio fo i fod fel grounded theory, ond ar ôl darllen a darganfod grounded theory, mae'n teimlo fel, mae'n swnio yn debyg, so na i just rhoi link chi, bobl sydd ddim yn gwybod amdano fo yn y chat, mae grounded theory yma, so mae'n rili ddifyr i ddarllen am anyway. So, na chi link bach yma. So, ella nawn ni symud ymlaen i'r tamad nesaf, Katie, os yna ddim mwy o cwestiynau yn sylweddol, ond mae Joe, mae gen ti llaw i fyny. So, Joe.
Yeah, just a big thank you for this opportunity and this opportunity to continue to share. It's just it's really important. We'll all take that into all the projects we'll do from now on, and hopefully we will all have that similar thing. And I would just like to see more. You know, I've just met a few people just briefly there, and I'd like to see what they're up to, and the best way is like them share their stuff somewhere, somehow. So I look forward to all that.
Joe. Os na ddim mwy o cwestiynau yn sylwada, nawn ni symud ymlaen i y cam nesaf, sef, fel nes i ddeud, heddiw di sesiwn ola ar-lein ni. So, sy'n ni wrth yn boddas ych chi yn fodlon cwblhau holiadur bach, tiny, i ni, ac os newch chi ymateb y cwestiwn 4 yn gofyn chi be stwff eraill sydd gennych chi ddim yn gwybod am y prosiect. So, os da chi gyd yn deud rhywbeth, a da ni yn gallu rhannu mi newn ni yn y dyfodol, basically. Dyna sydd pan mynd i'n gwneud rei yma. So, os yna rhywbeth penodol sydd yn dod i'r amlwg, neu ella bod na ddim byd. Ella bod chi'n gwybod beth am y prosiect hwnna. Da chi'n eisiau clywed amdano fo beth eto. Mae hynna'n ffain hefyd. So, na i just dechrau'r poll syml yma. A sori pawb sydd wedi bod mewn sesiwn o blaen. Yr unig cwestiwn ar nhw. Mae'n rhaid 5 munud i chi wneud hynna. A Katie, ti isio... Katie, mynd i ddarllen y cwestiynau, dwi'n meddwl, Katie?
So for those people that can catch up, we're asking the question, what was the most useful thing? What didn't work so well? And what else would be useful for us to share about the project and how? So anyone on catch up, you're welcome to get in touch with either myself or Ewan, and to also feedback.
Yn dal i weld gwyneb a teipio, so nhw'n ni adlol i roi mwy o amser i chi. So bod hyn yn potentially game y dyfodol i gesio pwy sy'n actually teipio a pwy sy'n just gyda gwyneb teipio. Dwi'n gallu gweld o'n gallu bod yn hit ar-lein, actually. So. Di pawb wedi gorffan cyfrannu be ydyn nhw eisiau. Then, gawn ni thumbs up os ydych chi wedi. Na rhywun dal eisiau bech mwy amser? Ia, wel, diolch neu gau holiadur. Diolch chi am gwblau hynna, rili gwerthfawrogi. Mae hynna yn super. So, mae hynna'n dod â ni i ddiwedd y sesiwn hefo chydig bach amser y sbar, sydd yn super lush, really. So, dwi'n newydd rhoi chydig o links yn y chat i chi tuag at tudalen Ffiwsa sy'n cynnwys holl gwaith y 9 adolygwr sy'n gwneud gwaith amazing. Mae yna rei pethau dwi'n meddwl da chi rili angen gafal yn efo, fel llyfr Joe a cael o'ch dwylo, really. Ond, gwni weld os ni'n gallu gwneud beth am hynna'n dyfodol. A hefyd, mae yna link i YouTube Dyffryn Dyfodol. Mae yna lot o fideos da ni wedi greu fan'na hefo bobol Creadigol a'r sesiynau ar-lein da ni wedi blaen. Fydd hwn yn mynd fyny, mi'n siŵr mewn te wythnos hefyd. Ac cadwch mewn cyswllt. I mean, os da chi eisiau dilyn Dyffryn Dyfodol Instagram, dim ond 5 post yna, ond da ni yn trio ychwanegu mwy o wybodaeth wrth i ni fynd. Mi fydd na gwefan Dyffryn Dyfodol efo lot mwy o wybodaeth. Ac ella cyn gwefan Dyffryn Dyfodol, nhw'n rhoi mwy o stwff ar gwefan Ffiwsa. Ac os da chi efo unrhyw gwestiynau neu rhywbeth ar ôl y sesiwn yma, neu unrhyw bryd arall, dwi just yn mynd i roi e-bost fi yn y chat. Mae croeso i chi gysylltu hefo ni hefyd, really hapus gael sgwrs pellach am Dyffryn Dyfodol, unrhyw beth da ni wedi wneud. Ac am yn un newyddion da ydy bod prosiect tair mlynedd Dyffryn Dyfodol wedi cael ei arennig yn Cyngor Cyfaddydan dod i ben, ond do ddim yn ddiwedd ar Dyffryn Dyfodol. So, da ni wedi sefydlu cwmni di-elw Dyffryn Dyfodol sydd hefo 2 prosiect wedi dechrau'n barod. Katie, so mae Dyffryn Dyfodol yn parhau. Mae'r bore weithio'n parhau. So, mai hwn di'r sesiwn rhannu ola, mi fydd yna fwy o stwff da ni'n neud a mwy o stwff da ni eisiau rhannu. Ac da ni heb di cyhoeddi'r ddau thing yna eto, na ddo, Katie, so ella ddylsyn ni'n neud hynna'n eitha buan. Ella hwnna di Instagram post nesaf ni. Yn rhannu be da ni'n neud nesaf. Ella bod kind of diolch enfawr yn gyntaf i Sioned am y holl waith sydd wedi wneud drwy'r bore a'r prawn, diolch fawr iawn i ti. Ac i Joe a Gwenny am wneud y holl waith amazing ydych chi'n wneud a cymryd rhan heddiw yma. Katie, diolch am fod yn partner in crime hefo fi eto heddiw yma. A diolch chi gyd am ddod a dangos brwdfrydedd a diddordeb yn y prosiect. So, really, really gwerthfawrogi. A gobeithio na jyst tra am y tro di hwn yn hytrach na hwyl fawr am amser hirach. So, gobeithio na i weld chi gyd eto yn fuan. Glynt, joiwch dydd Iau.
Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr. Hwyl.
Wel.